Quick review and going over the new Ryobi P236 18 volt impact driver. Now this one's included with a couple of the newer combination kits, which I haven't had much reason to buy because my older Ryobi tools tend to work about like the newer ones, except for a couple on a case-by-case basis where I've been thinking about buying the new models like the impact driver. And then, and of course, I understand a couple of newer circular saws are a little bit better too. And what we're seeing though is there are some subtle differences on some of the models that are actually kept on the market in parallel to each other. Now this one that I've been using for about a year is the P234G. And I think I bought this as part of a kit that also included a drill. Okay, and so in that kit there was the impact driver plus the drill, and I think I got a couple of batteries with that too. It was around 120 some odd bucks. And as an impact driver, obviously I've gotten a whole lot of use out of it, right? Owned it for a little bit over a year, used it with a bunch of different batteries, the P108s, and then I actually like to use the P103s. I think it's the shorter battery just to save weight on this thing. But you can also see the length of it. It's not super compact. Okay, so we talk about some other ones on the market where they've been able to shorten the thing. The DeWalt impact one, I don't own one, but I've used a friend of mine. It's a really good unit. One of the issues with the DeWalt though is it's also pretty powerful, and when I use it for furniture assembly, the DeWalts can break stuff. So you know, sometimes it's appropriate to use these, sometimes not. Now, a lot of them will have a trigger sensitivity where once you get used to the trigger, it's a potentiometer built into the trigger mechanism. You can control the speed. Okay, see how I can make that thing go slower, and then I can speed it up. But there's a little bit of an upper limit to this model, and it's effectively the same as the last impact drivers that they had before they went over to the light green bodied tools with a lithium-ion theme to them. And you can find another drill. I'm not quite sure about your impact driver. Not quite sure about the model designation, but it's nearly identical, and it's blue and has all the same power. They say it's about 1,500 inch-pounds of torque, although you can increase that a little bit with the using a higher capacity battery, the more amperage on the 4 amp P108 batteries. Now this one on the labeling at the Home Depot stores, this is a 236 and an updated and upgraded model. Most of the time available as a standalone tool, sometimes in the larger combination kits. But what I'm finding is these are still included in a lot of the combination kits. Now this one they say we're going to get up to 1,600 foot-pounds of torque, so there's a little bit more torque available. It feels a little bit heavier on the head end, and I'm not sure if that's because it has a more powerful motor or maybe a little bit different hammering mechanism on the inside, or both. It could be a combination of the two. The other thing I run into is that they've managed to make it just a little bit shorter. You can see that the motor housing is slightly shorter, and of course the impact housing is slightly shorter. When I put these up against each other, you can see I'm saving maybe about a ½ an inch total. Not all that much. That's assuming I'm using the same heads, same screw heads on these. Now here's the thing, when I go to change these, and one reason I wanted to buy a second one of these, I use a lot of stuff that has these little type of bits on there, including a lot of drill bits that have this sort of a thing for the quick change truck. And I notice I kind of like having a little bit of extra power out of this. Now to pop these in, it's basically a 1/4 inch hex up here. That's not a Colette chuck. And that's one of the ways we're able to save some length on the tool. And what I do to put this in is I can put that in, get a little length, but it's not going to stay in unless I pull that up and engage the little locking mechanism. Then it stays in. Now, I've learned how to be a little bit dexterous in changing these, kind of, sort of, but a lot of times it's a two-handed operation to at least take one off or put one on. This newer model, though, has what they call the auto load chuck. So as soon as I press one in there, I can pop it in, and you're going to see that thing pop. See that? You see how that popped in? That's the auto load chuck. So you could do at least load these single-handed. Now here's the other thing. Watch this. When I pop this out, it goes flying. Kind of an interesting little feature on that. And if you were to go out and buy a bunch of these little 3/8 adapters, it basically turns this into a pretty good 3/8 impact wrench where you could quick change your sockets pretty quickly and one-handed. Now I use 3/8 impact adapters with this a lot, and but it does help speed up changing out your bits by having a quick load, quick detach type of situation on there. Now, the base of these, even though there's a styling update and change on these, the base basically does the same thing. They've got a little magnet base. They got a little thing that can hold an extra bit. You do have to look out for this thing have a little more power when you go to brakes. You know, it can break stuff. You got to look out for that. The other cool thing about the newer model on the P236 is it has the built-in light. That's good for working inside and under cabinets and electrical boxes and around vehicles where you want a little more light on a subject on the stuff you're working on. But it's not exactly a full-on flashlight either, although it's a nice little bright LED. We still have the adjustable power based on how you pull the trigger. So I can make that thing turn slow by pulling the trigger partially, or I pull the trigger back all the way and go faster. Now this one, they say, goes up to 3,400 RPM according to the specifications, and on this one we go up to 2,600 RPM. As far as driving screws and bolts, you got to look out for that, just kind of stripping stuff out, especially with a Phillips head. When you start talking about drilling holes, though, going to make this thing a little bit better for drilling metal and harder materials when you're using it. And again, 33% more torque. I don't see that in the specifications compared to this. Maybe 33% more compared to their oldest models or just the drill. They say 33% more than previous model. I think that's kind of stepping back 2 or 3 models. Available $69.95 at Home Depot. Again, if you're a veteran, you can get 10% off. If you are a contractor, you can also buy those on an account and get 10% off that way. If you've gotten some of these with, let's say, a tool kit, or you bought the drill and driver kit, and you find yourself, it's been a little bit irritating to constantly be changing trucks, might be a good idea just to carry more than one impact driver around. That's what I'm going to start doing. And it seems like it's a decent tool. I'm going to use it for the next year, and we'll talk about it in a year. As far as the P234G goes, at the 1 year mark, one thing I've noticed is the impact aspect of it seems to have lost a little bit of power. But again, it's paid for itself many times over. Not a problem. As far as future improvements would go, I would like to see the little level bubble incorporated into these that they've incorporated onto their drills. I think it would help a little bit to have the little level bubble on the back, maybe one across the top. I'd like to see the flashlight maybe being something where it has its own switch, so that I wouldn't have to pull the trigger to use the light, and I would be able to use it with its own switch, and maybe have it be brighter with more LEDs. I'd like to see maybe some sort of a holder mechanism somewhere on the tool that could hold more than one bit. It's kind of nice that it holds one bit on here, but I'd almost like to have something where, you know, maybe up here or on the side somewhere I could hold 3 or 4 bits, or maybe some little detachable bit holder or something like that, so it can all be there as a package and I can pick it up and go with it. I'd also like to see some sort of a hook hanger or hanger strap or something like that so I can hang it from a tool belt. There are holsters made for these, but because of the balance and the weight balance on these, they don't work all that great. So I'd like to see some sort of a lanyard loop or hook point or something on that thing. Anyway, so there it is, the Ryobi P236 18 volt improved model impact driver for 2013.